We are back. This is episode 5. I don't know when we stop counting episodes, Jono. It doesn't feel like now.
Never.
We're going to keep counting them indefinitely. We have another special guest in the hot seat. You know this person very well. You know them better than me. I know them quite well. Who are we talking to today?
Well, today I'm pretty excited to have with us Warwick Boulter, co-founder and CEO of Collaboro, a wonderful Australian digital asset management business that's doing some really interesting stuff, especially baking in a little bit of AI and doing some cool things for some of the biggest brands that everybody would know and love in Australia. A little bit of bio on Warwick before we welcome you, Warwick, to the hot seat. After a long and successful career as a TV producer for international brands, Warwick felt the pain and noticed the marketplace gap on both the client and agency side when it came to storing, finding and sharing the digital assets that they had produced. As CEO of Collaboro, Warwick aligns the team behind one mission, and that is to enable brands to reclaim control of their content and position it to be ready for the future of marketing. Fantastic Australian business doing some innovative stuff. Welcome to the hot seat, Warwick.
Oh, thanks, Jono. G'day, Naran.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Pleasure.
Yeah, great. And look, one of the things that's really interesting to me about Collaboro is that you're an Australian SaaS business and you are in absolute growth and acquisition mode, scaling up rapidly. And I know there's a lot of investment out there as well. Keen to hear your views on that. And it is, a juxtaposition because I think everybody would agree we are in a bit of a slow, sluggish market, but obviously not for Collaboro. And one of the things that I'd love to get into with you today is just some insights for you around the rise of the importance of sovereignty when it comes to Australian brands and their data and their assets and their IP. So let's get into that.
Well, I might just sort of start by saying that, growth and acquisition is almost the one topic at the moment for a business like ours. I think underlyingly the marketing vertical is quite depressed. You know, as the economy tightens, marketing tightens even harder. And we therefore are looking pretty heavily in acquisition mode, which is great fun. You know, you get to understand a whole bunch of other businesses, and in working pretty deeply with our cloud providers, we can immediately go to those acquisition targets and look at them in a holistic fashion and go, well, where can we save money by bringing those cloud synergies together? And to me, that's kind of interesting stuff. You know, I quite like it. I think I'm a bit of a closet nerd. I'm not a nerd by trade. But I think
nerd by trade. I think we should.
Was he casting dispersions there, John?
I'll take it.
Not sure I care for his tone.
I think probably you guys, but certainly my CTO Jeff, see me as a frustrated engineer, so I have just enough of the right words to make them sound okay, but I really don't know what they mean underneath.
Well, that is Jono and I.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We're all in the same boat.
We're fortunate though to have pretty supportive venture capital behind us, and they like the strategy of rolling together a bunch of businesses. It's interesting you talk about the sovereign topic, because critical to our acquisition path is hoovering up a bunch of companies that are sovereign to Australia and who have a real interest in data sovereignty as part of their offering into market.
Is it fair to say your customer base cares about that as well, just as much as you?
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, every new sales deal we see through the door, sovereignty is a topic.
Yeah, you know, we see that play out, obviously in government, trying to push independence and sovereign in terms of sourcing and where you keep your data. We're also starting to see that extend into conversations as it relates to AI. You know, and a lot of people playing with new models and you know, the early adopters starting to figure, well, where's your data going? How's that playing out for you? So I think that's something that is going to become increasingly important. And obviously you're seeing that, you know, I think you've even it's the make or break in terms of whether or not you win some business or not as to where are my digital assets actually going to reside.
Yeah, I think there's actually two topics there around AI and sovereignty. So topic one is, sovereignty is critical to any kind of data play these days, certainly in Australia. You know, the Australian government's really hardcore on things like personally identifying information, making sure it stays in the country and making sure it's managed. But when it comes to AI, What we are doing with our customer data is moving it into effectively a private cloud to reduce the egress costs, and I might start a fight here, I'm not sure, reduce the egress costs to allow our customers to then utilize the assets that they have and own and allow them to be used in any kind of AI that they like.
Right.
So making sure, just to kind of dig into those two topics, one, they can use their assets at scale really easily without penalty. And two, they know that they're local and they can remain local as part of those use cases.
Yep. Look, it's forgivable for you to use the word egress. That's fine. I mean, I am the head of the Azure business,
It's a
so
real thing.
it is a real thing for sure. And look, our customers are increasingly becoming hybrid customers as well. So egress is a very valid conversation to have, certainly. So yes, that resonates.
Well, I think especially when you're in the business of moving data around,
Yeah,
right? Like that's actually what you're in the business. You're in the business of housing these important assets and enabling organizations to move it around and use it on location and access it from different places. And so that involves some level of portability of those assets, right?
definitely. I think portability and accessibility is really critical to it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Great conversation. We'll be back straight after this break.
Okie dokie, we are back. We're here to get stuck into the customer scenario. So here we go. And this is on cloud repatriation. Sweet merciful, right? So let's frame this, shall we? So I am the head of the Azure business. We're talking about cloud repatriation. Look, it's a real thing. It's a real topic. I know that we work very, very hard within our Azure managed customer base to make sure that we are ever working to reduce cost. We know that hybrid is not just a popular conversation, but a real directive now. We know that our customer base want to make sure they're getting value for money for their workloads. But I would say from a global perspective, repatriation is a very, very real thing. I'm going to say something super contentious here. Here we go, right? So this came directly from an AWS employee, allegedly, because it allows me to say anything after that, okay? Allegedly, 40% of AWS's customers are considering in part or in full to repatriate. How's that for a stat?
Look, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. It could actually be more. They might just be the ones that admit it. You know, this is probably been a topic that's been gaining real traction over the last 12 months. We think downward pressure on budgets is probably the primary driver. But increasingly, the ability to scale without, and we've spoken about this before, the ability to scale without giving a large percentage of your revenue back to your hosting provider is something that every business is now interested in, especially if they've gone all in on one particular cloud. And that's where we're seeing the real rise of the adoption of hybrid.
Yep.
You know, and even looking at some of the latest stats out of the US, 81% of CIOs are considering cloud repatriation. And I know that was probably one of the initial topics that got us speaking to Warwick.
So that's the ultimate setup, Warwick. And we know that Collaboro made a bold move to repatriate data from the public cloud to private. Talk us through it.
There's a couple of topics in there. Topic number one, our customers, we talked about sovereignty at the start. Our customers are really focused on sovereignty and security. They're big enterprises, they're very public, and they don't want their public stuff living anywhere that they don't know where it lives. So it's pretty critical to them that sovereignty and security is central to it. However, with the rise of AI and potentially generative AI, training algorithms are out there somewhere. Our customers need to be able to release those assets they have with us into the wild to be able to train the algorithms. So there's another topic there around egress. But I think really for us, cloud repatriation has two much larger elements. Element one is cost, which you touched on, Jono. You know, if we look at AWS's on-demand pricing of 2.5 cents-ish a gigabyte a month, in private cloud at Macquarie, we're charging 0.9 a gigabyte a month. So, you know, it works out really well for us. And at the end of the day, SaaS is largely a margin game. So you've got to play your margins. The second topic for us is actually slightly off topic. And that's that moving into a private environment allows us to decouple from platform as a service and start looking at containerized operation. And what's interesting is most of our customers are talking to us about their repatriation. So they want to keep their data in their world, So we therefore need to have an application that we can place in their world, whether that world is Azure, whether it's AWS, whether it's private cloud, doesn't really matter. And our drive to have a containerized platform is a really important thing to solve that customer use case. Doing that in a private cloud means that we kind of can't go backwards. We have to go forwards to do it.
That's fantastic.
There's a real life example. I think we were talking, I can't remember, it was because we named the episode with numbers, episode 1 or 2, can't remember which one it was, that idea of cloud portability, workload portability. And I think Naran and I were toying with this idea of, asking people, talk to your teams, how portable is your app? Can you traverse platforms at will? And respond to market forces because your customer wants to be there and you need to do that to close the deal, or because this platform, there's been a price increase and that's going to impact your margins. And I'd say you're probably an early adopter of this strategy, really thinking about being really forced to think about how portable is my app, and you're looking at a containerization strategy.
I think Warwick's got the best of all worlds there. I mean, we've heard a cost driver, and this is a cost and risk podcast, right? So we've heard a cost driver there and some material cost savings that allow you to deliver the commercial drivers you need as a SaaS provider. Tick number 1. You've got the sovereign piece covered off, right, which is important for your business, for your customers equally. But you've got a hybrid play there with containerization as well, because you recognize that your customers want to retain aspects of portability. So I think you've really nailed all 3 points there.
Well, you mentioned risk a little bit. There's also the risk that the hyperscale providers, if you're using PaaS, don't continue to have that product for you or change the pricing and you're wedded to it.
So you've like hard coded to that platform.
Exactly. So, we were really reliant on Azure Media Services, got deprecated at the end of June. So most of our competitors and others around us have pivoted to AWS. We, however, have gone, well, hang on, we need to take greater control of our future. So we've built our own.
A lot of foresight there. I'm really interested in that stat. Maybe we'll just get Warwick to say it again. A little plug for the private cloud. How much cheaper will we pay?
This is not what this podcast is about, Jono.
Oh, let's go.
He can't help himself, Warwick.
It's only about 2.5 times, but I think appearing on the podcast, it could be 3 or 4, John.
Oh, look, I feel like it's more than that. And, who really knows? But look, that's a really, really such maturity, I think, and thought leadership there for any Australian homegrown scale-up SaaS business. Thinking about, how do you be successful in terms of your technology strategy? I'm hearing portability, to mitigate your risk. And I've really loved you talking about taking control of your own destiny or your own future. It's so powerful. We'll be right back after the break. All right, we're back with our subscriber question. This week's question comes from a subscriber, incidentally in the SaaS space, so obviously deliberately picked it for Warwick. We're growing fast, looking at acquisition opportunities. How do we prepare our IT strategy to handle new data types and the unknown?
That's a great question. I think it might talk to the first thing I said, or a recent thing I said around taking control of your own destiny a little bit. So, how do we prepare our IT strategy to handle new inputs? It's actually going to be a lot about people-based. Make sure you've got the right people skills in the business to accept the different data types coming in. And it's often, if you're acquiring a business, it's not even often about the data itself. It's about the way, I didn't say that well, so you can edit this. It's about the way that the data is handled by that application and what that application contains within it to be able to then use that data properly. And there's a huge cost in that transition space between it's theirs and it's ours. And that cost is largely the time for people to turn it from theirs, the acquired parties, into ours, the acquired parties.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So there's cycles to be spun in terms of, hours of effort. That's a real cost. Hours of effort of smart people to ingest those environments into your environment. Is there efficiencies there to be gained? Is like in terms of, looking for the right type of asset that you would acquire? Can I bring this thing into my machine, and can 1 + 1 = 3? In terms of the bottom line, that's obviously the game, right?
Yeah, totally. I think that's the game. I think there's 2 parts to that. Certainly from my perspective, for the acquisitions we're looking at, part number one is about acquiring that customer data and that customer revenue flow and making that easy for the customer. Part two is also around functionality and capability. You know, the acquired platform might be an adjacency that has functionality that you don't have, but your customers are after. Or the acquired platform might be a direct competitor who is out competing you in certain places. So making sure that you bring on their customers and their data and therefore their revenue really easily and seamlessly, but then above all, making sure that the future of that group business is around functionality and how the gains can be made in your existing and future markets.
I like it.
Yeah, so a lot of that due diligence up front, and you need clever people to be inspecting those assets and putting a good strategy together, right?
Yeah, I think the clever people's the key.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great practical advice. We'll be back after this break, and Naran's going to take us through some 3 hot questions.
Alrighty, we're back. So here we go. This was once upon a time a new segment. I think this is the second time we've done this. We asked the same 3 questions for each guest that we have the privilege of dumping in the hot seat and assaulting the way we have to you today. So here we go. Here's the 3 questions. Question number 1. If you had to cut 20% from your budget tomorrow, where would you start?
In this business, it's definitely about looking at unused storage of our customers.
Interesting.
So, you know, there's lots of assets that they never touch. If we can go to those customers and say, hey, let's look at reducing the amount of storage you use, no doubt that will reduce the amount of revenue that they generate for us, but our margin on that revenue is pretty significant. So the cost saving is far stronger.
Got it.
In my old life as a TV commercial producer, I think the answer would have been don't go to lunch all the time.
Yeah. Are you saying we should tighten our belts on the corporate Amex, or is that how it works?
No, I'm a Macquarie customer.
All right, very good. Here we go. Thank you. Question number 2. What's your one piece of advice for attracting the smartest talent in your team?
ESOP.
ESOP, what's that?
An employee share options plan.
Ooh,
so give them a piece of the pie and but inspire them to want to be a part of the journey.
I see. I like that. We should be doing that too, John.
That's a very SaaS answer. I love it.
All right, good. Question number 3, here we go. When you're evaluating a prospective partner, how do you spot the red flags that tell you they're not the real deal?
That's a really good question. And I'm not very good at this. I'm a very positive, believing person. So I would actually, for me personally, say have good people around me that can help spot red flags.
Okay.
Rather than I see shiny lights and shimmer and think that's fantastic and I should go down that path.
Well, look, Warwick, I mean, clearly you are a beloved customer of our business. How did you find Macquarie?
Oh, good question. Through a venture capital partner or an advisor I have introduced into the Macquarie business, and I think it's one of the coolest things ever.
Huh.
Yeah, another referral.
Another referral. I
It's
like
a
that.
referral.
We need to find out who that venture cap partner was.
Yeah,
Buy them lunch on your Amex. All right. Listen, that's a wrap. Warwick, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks so much, Warwick.
Great to see you.
And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much to Warwick for being on the show. Hopefully you can come on again. It's been wonderful having you.
And look, if you've got a question, something you'd like answered, reach out to us, please, via any channel. We'll obviously put all the details out like we always do. We love questions, so ask us anything. If you're mortally wounded or offended by anything that's been said, let us know. All feedback is good, so thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening in, everyone. If you've enjoyed the show, then don't forget to subscribe to Cloud Reset on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay tuned. We drop a new episode every 2 weeks and we have more special guests to come. That was Cloud Reset, straight talk, real solutions.